I trusted the wrong people. I lost about $4.5 million in about 15 minutes. Took me almost 8 years to pay off, but the second we hit zero, we came out the other side like a rocket ship.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Shop, where we talk shop. I'm joined here with the legend, Mr. Riley Hopkins.
The legend.
No, I call you
That's
that
it.
because I've heard that before.
I see. Okay. Well, anyway, it's nice to be here.
Thank you for being here, for sure.
Yeah, it was a nice flight up and get a little bit of rain going on here. So it's nice to be back.
It tends to rain here somewhat.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
About 20 miles west of Tokyo as a kid, and then the Northwest otherwise.
Okay, all right, cool.
So,
You spend a lot of time down in California?
A bit.
Oh, yeah.
I've had shops down there, and but I've always been based out of the Northwest, so it's worked out well. California's always been a interesting experience because people expect good designs to come out of there, and new thoughts, new techniques, everything else that's encouraged, and so that's a nice environment to be able to negotiate.
Well, Riley, I called you a legend earlier because in this industry, your name is very popular. We were just at an impression show down in Long Beach, which is the biggest international trade show pretty much in the world.
Yep.
And you're a fan favorite. You're popular. Does that feel
Well,
weird?
Well, actually, since I ran into so many people that I know that are friends, it's more of just nice to see people, so it isn't self-adulation or any of that stuff. It's just really nice to see what's new, who's doing what, who's developed something new,
All right.
that sort of thing.
Humility aside, how long have you been in this industry, serving this industry?
Well, it's actually coming up on 50 years, which is a little daunting.
That's
It's
very
hard to believe it.
impressive.
I mean, I'm planning on racing this year, this fall, and I want to win a race or two when I'm in my 80s.
For the
So,
listeners who may not know who you are, when you
mhm,
say race,
mhm.
can you explain what that is?
Yeah, I do road racing, closed circuit racing, sports cars. I primarily run single seaters for my Atlantic cars, which are quite similar to an Indy car, just a little less quick, but really an e-ticket ride and something I've always really enjoyed.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool.
So getting a chance to continue to do it, I'm glad that I haven't lost my reflexes or any of that stuff because the second I do, I'm not driving. That's just the rule.
Okay. Okay. So race cars, screen printing presses. What
Yep.
else has been in the background before we go to the start?
Well, I also have designed and built cars for a long time as well, handmade stuff, and because I could never afford what I was racing against, so I did my own stuff.
That's great.
And have wound up doing a couple of new car projects that are quite nice. And I usually like to have 2 or 3 different things going on at once, so when I get bored with one, I can sneak over and do the second one.
Has that always been the case?
Um, Pretty much. I've always been broke, so whatever it takes to get to the next race or pay the rent or whatever,
Huh?
you got to respond to what the needs are. So I'm versatile in that regard.
Okay. So when I first heard of your name, I started at Ryonet 2013, 2014.
Mhm.
And this is already a time where Ryonet is already selling hundreds and thousands of the Riley Hopkins presses. So I saw your name just on our presses. That's how I first,
Right.
heard about you. And then I think you came to visit. You typically come to our events,
Mhm.
and you came to visit. And I've learned more and more about you. And so I've heard some of your story, and I hope that we can share some of that story today. One is the amazing partnership that you've built with Ryonet.
Oh, yeah.
And almost, I think it's extreme maybe to say picture perfect, but there's a lot of really cool synergies.
Absolutely, and the thing that was nice about it, is I was looking for a new me,
Mm.
uh, because, I always like to look at the future, and I wanted to see the business continue to grow and flourish, and, I'd been doing it for 40 years at that point and, thought that, it'd be a good time to, give somebody else a chance to continue on. And one of the things that we agreed on, Ryan and I agreed on early on, was that the most important thing wasn't selling machinery. The important thing was making sure that the customers had backup so they could be successful enough to buy more machinery.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
your beginning tech team was part of that agreement that we had so that people just didn't get a crate and have a nice day. It was for the long haul and for help when you needed it.
Yeah. And I think that's what rings true really well between Ryonet and Riley Hopkins is that
Oh, yeah.
the customer success is definitely in the picture
Yeah.
often and thought about, from an investment standpoint and product standpoint.
Well, and the other part too that's interesting, same deal with both of us. I mean, I've had people come up and want to spend $20,000 on a new package of stuff. They're just getting started. They've never really printed, and they got their girlfriend with them, and blah blah blah. And I would say, well, actually, I'm not very comfortable selling you
Mm.
all of this equipment. Why don't we start over here with something easy?
Mhm.
Uh, find out if you actually like it or not. And if you do, then we'll go back and talk about what you originally were thinking about, because I'm not opposed to selling that to you. I just want you to be comfortable first.
But that's really reminiscent. That reminds me of the Riley product line. We like to say here, there's a press for everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, we started them really small. Did you always build presses before Ryonet? Did you build presses of all sizes before?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that
Yeah.
was
Up
always
to like
something.
14 color, yada, yada. Yeah. I'd do some numbering machines and I'd jack the price up 2 grand each time I'd do one. I just want to blow them up because they were really difficult to build. And so I tried to get into more common ground.
Okay.
So,
Okay, well, I know we just jumped right into it, but I know there's some people on that are listening to this that are wondering what we're talking about. So why don't we just kind of level reset, go back to, we don't have to go back to the way beginning, but if you could take us back to a time that you first thought about building presses.
well, actually, I went down to San Francisco to be an art director for an ad agency and drive their race car. And unfortunately, they got a sponsorship from Kimberly Clark's feminine care products, and I wouldn't be a very good representative.
No.
So
Okay.
I got canned.
Okay.
And I had already picked up a warehouse in San Francisco that I wanted to turn into an artist loft. So
All right.
I had race cars in there, fine art, yada, yada. But I was just basically trying to stay alive and get to the next race. And a fellow was referred to me who had been living high off the hog selling T-shirts.
Okay.
Yeah, for about 6 months, and he didn't have a printing machine because they didn't really exist.
Would I know
And
this person or
well,
was
you
this?
wouldn't want me, or and he
I wouldn't
certainly
want.
wouldn't want me to say. But
Okay.
at any rate, he finally decided after 6 months that he really needed a press because he was going to be going to jail otherwise. So anyway, I built 12 presses to begin with just to cover my design time, and
Oh, okay.
was just floored when they were all gone the first week. People just coming up to the door. I hadn't talked to anybody or anything else. They were just there with cash. Give me one of those quick.
Wow, that must have been a trip.
Yeah, it was because, real people are in business, not me kind of thing. And so all of a sudden
Wow.
I had to readjust. and get into manufacturing mode. I had no idea what it was going to net out at, but you were talking about numbers. Uh, when we sold to Ryonet, I'd produced over 40,000 presses worldwide. And the thing that was important to me was that 1 to 3 people got a job with every press that I sent out. And the other part was that I had built them simply enough and strong enough and didn't ever obsolete anybody's old presses so that they would last. And I've got stuff that's 40 plus years old that's
Yep.
still banging them out.
Yep. I see it. I
Yeah,
see it.
which I'm very proud of.
Mm-hmm. And that's the reason why Ryonet can, hold true to a lifetime warranty as well,
Yeah, yeah.
because these things are built so well. Okay, so that was awesome. But I think something that you said that a lot of our people listening would really be able to connect with is having a product that all of a sudden people want. Like you weren't planning on that. You were doing it as a side gig, trying to fuel another passion, and all of a sudden people are coming in saying, "We want more." I think a lot of our listeners they've been in that situation. It may have jump-started a lot of their businesses. Where did you go from there? What was the next step when you said, "I've got to build these things"? What did you have a manufacturing background?
In the sense that I'd always built my own stuff, and I had worked at Boeing for a while, so I was aware of a large-scale manufacturing and the disciplines for all the parts in between. So the basic concept, yeah, I was familiar with it. Had I done it? No.
And I'm trying to put the years together. When was this about?
Late 60s.
Late 60s. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a growing experience. I needed to have a sales force, and I made some arrangements with a couple of companies, and they started out locally. I got a job driving for Bob Bondurant on a BMW test drive format at a couple of racetracks on the East Coast, and I was really happy because this is my first foray with BMW, and I was really looking forward to getting a chance to parlay that into something else. And I called back to find out how things were going at the end of the first week, and I was informed that this company had gone to a trade show in New Orleans and had just sold 32 machines. And I was like, 32 machines? I'm in business. I'm going to have to build these things.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about.
Yeah. And
So there was a demand.
oh, yeah.
Clearly.
It was just at the start of the T-shirt craze, so
Okay.
that hit really good. But the problem was how to solve the problem economically and in the easiest way possible. And I went down a sheet metal road, which I didn't complete. And I'm very happy that I didn't because that was absolutely not the way to go.
Okay.
And I wound up working with an Italian company in San Francisco that just made beautiful castings, and their molds. I mean, it was like looking at a Ferrari. I mean, you just want to go up and wax it to feel all the shapes that the thing has. So anyway, we came up with some pretty nice stuff, but I still had this intermediate company and in between, and they told me that they wanted to buy my company.
Okay.
Gonna give me enough money to get an Indy car.
This was early on.
Yeah.
Okay. First few years.
Yep.
Okay.
And they basically said, okay, look, we're getting to the end of the year. Run all your inventory out. I was getting a fee for each machine to assemble it. They'd pay for everything, and it was easy. So ran out of inventory as I was requested to. I drove up to Portland to their headquarters, middle of winter, sat outside in their reception area, and they came out and said, well, sorry, we can't do the deal. And by the way, we can't afford to pay you to build these machines anymore.
Right.
which the basic truth was they figured they'd drive me out of business and take over the crumbs for nothing. And of course, by the time we drove from Portland on the Coast Highway, because of all the snow, uh, I designed a rotary loader 4-color press. Because
Okay.
up to that point, it was only a single station.
Oh,
Rotary load didn't exist.
nice.
Oh, yeah, so we designed this on the way down the coast.
Wow.
Well, we were trying to see how far I could get my Econoline crossed up before it would spin, and we got it at 30 degrees pretty consistently in the snow.
So before this, what did presses look like then? At this
Well, there
point?
weren't very many of them.
Okay.
They had the Baztecs, Richardson, Advance had some stuff,
Mhm.
but it was all pretty large for what it was.
Okay.
And I just tried to get stuff that was a little more civilized space-wise, just because of me growing up in Japan as a kid. I'm just used to using smaller space
Right.
to the max.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
anyway, we just
So what,
basically built this race car that you couldn't break. That was real simple to use, and man, they sold like mad.
Well, what you get back down to, you're in LA at the time.
Oh no, it was
No,
San Francisco.
I'm sorry, San Francisco at the time.
Yeah.
You get back there with that news,
Yeah.
and how do you work through that?
Well, I made a deal with each one of my vendors because they'd been getting paid through this other company, and I told them the circumstances and said, "Look, guys, spot me for 90 days here, and I'll stick with you in the future." And off we went.
How confident were you that you were going to make it work?
I was fairly terrified.
Okay.
I mean,
But there's a chance. You're telling me there's a chance.
well, yeah, but I mean, that's every time you pass somebody, it's the same deal. It's iffy at times.
Okay. Okay.
So, nonetheless, I mean, I was committed to making it work. Not stupidly, but committed to making it work.
Okay. These presses that you're kind of talking about, the early days, these presses have helped thousands of entrepreneurs start up shop. Like you're saying, there's always been a passion for putting people to work,
Yeah,
powering businesses, families, communities.
exactly.
What in all of those different people that this press has touched and that you had a part of, are there any people that stand out in that repertoire of people that you've connected with? Is there anybody who?
Well, there are so many exceptional people. It's
Yeah.
really difficult to isolate a couple, but
Mhm.
typically what happens to me and my wife, we'll be at dinner or something like that. Somebody will come up and say, "God, just want to thank you for giving me this press 20 years ago. And I put my kids through school and we bought a couple of houses, got nice cars, and thank you."
See, that's really cool.
Yeah, oh, man, that just feels so good. And it has nothing to do with the money.
Yeah.
It just has to do with taking care of people, which I enjoy.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay. These people that it's taken care of, it wasn't without their constant effort to create their business and to
Yeah.
take the tool and for what it is, and then just make things happen with it and go through their ups and downs. That's why I think your story is so important to hear, because a lot of people who are in those positions now, kind of maybe different stage of their business, they thought, oh, well, Riley Hopkins, I mean, he, so successful that he must have never gone through strife, or got lucky. Was there a time that you did get pretty fortunate? Was there a lucky draw?
No.
No.
Actually, the whole point about it was my luck was in discovering that I needed to build a perfect machine, or I needed not to do anything because I would create harm
Okay.
in my customer.
Yeah.
And that realization was the thing that made everything work.
Was the customer a part of that? Were early users a part of the feedback back to you?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, I just let her rip. I the first press The first press that we tested was up at a predecessor to Winterland Productions with Bill Graham's deal. And boy, I took this press up there and, you know, it was handmade, hand fitted, everything was wonderful. And this guy very carefully adjusted the registration. And it happened to be on a Flying Wing album cover, which is one of my favorite planes.
Oh,
Nice. Yeah. And so anyway, I was really excited about this. And in my mind, I'd pictured how he was going to carefully put each color down and, you know, so on and so forth. He turned this thing into a helicopter just in a heartbeat. It was just banging and booming and shaking and doing everything. I could not believe what this guy was doing to this press. And so for 2 weeks after that, I would come in the morning and pick up a blown up press, take it back down to the shop, redo it,
wow.
bring it back up,
Okay.
and then do the same thing the next day because they'd figure, I mean, they had guys who were getting paid by the piece. So those guys were gorillas.
Okay.
If they could bust it, they would.
Yeah. Okay.
So
interesting.
that was my customer feedback.
So what did it do to change the press itself rather than, more than just repairing it?
Yeah, well, basically what it wound up doing was forcing me more into an aircraft and race car point of view.
Help me through that.
All the fasteners had to be of a very high caliber, dimensionally correct so they weren't loose in the hole and all that sort of thing. And that if you're going to support a bolt, it's best not to support it just on one side, but in both sides.
Okay.
So you can support it really well, very strongly, but very light.
Okay, yeah.
So that's the direction it forced me into. I mean, I thought that way anyway, but I didn't want to spend the money. But that's the direction I had to go.
Yeah. Did
you ever want to
go back in there and just say, treat it a little lighter?
Well, it's like I was telling somebody the other day, I always tried to simplify my presses and get rid of every adjustment you could possibly think of because inevitably somebody would make an adjustment and usually incorrectly.
Yeah.
So I just tried to keep it simple. And simple is actually difficult.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That reminds me of something that I heard, which is a famous songwriter, I think from the Beatles. That it's easy to write a complicated song, but it's hard to write a simple song or something like that. It's not the exact words, but it reminds me of that.
Yeah.
As simple as possible, but not too simple.
Well,
Let's talk about, so this, I guess you kind of walked us through year 5?
Yeah, it was about 5 years.
Okay,
in
about
that
5
range.
years.
Yeah.
Any major milestones around that time or slightly after? Like, what was the next evolution of Riley Hopkins at that point?
Well, I was trying real hard to advance my racing career in the middle of all of this.
Okay.
And build my own stuff and still not really able to compete against the top guys with the top equipment. And I wound up catching fire twice in 2 weekends. One at Road America, caught fire there, drove back across the country, was racing in Portland here, and caught fire again on Friday, and was just ready to quit. And this friend of mine introduced me to a local, very famous local race car guy here in Portland named Pierre Phillips. And so I wound up driving for him for about 4 years. And he just said, look, I've been watching you. You got talent, but you're trying to do too much and you're trying to do your business as well. Show up here on Wednesday night, get out of here on Sunday, concentrate on your business and concentrate on your driving, and both will be better. I would imagine you would probably double your business. And I thought that he was crazy. And he was, because I tripled it.
That's a cool
yeah, and I got
thing.
enough points to make it back to the national championships starting in June. So I'd lost half the season, and I still made it.
Wow, that's cool. Just splitting your focus on each one. Is that kind of
Yeah,
what I heard?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Not trying to do both
Okay.
because I was getting more and more frustrated, and I was crashing more often, and just trying too hard with stuff that didn't work as well as it should. So, not to make excuses, but that's just the way it was.
When did business start to really move in the right direction from your perspective? Like when you started feeling like you were winning?
I had an all-woman sales staff, number one, which was just killer. And my business manager was a lady, Lois Crater. Uh, she married my engine builder, and
Right.
she was an incredible manager and would beat me up routinely to keep my expenditures in line. So anyway, that was a good team.
Yeah.
And when I moved to the next level uh, to expand, didn't pick the right people
Okay.
and had difficulty with it,
Okay. This
as
was a
so often is the
partnership?
case. No, no, just hired a general manager. I've had some interesting general managers over the years. It's a very difficult thing to do, actually,
Yes.
especially if you're not there.
Let's talk about the industry at that time and how it was clearly it was at the forefront of rotary manual presses.
Hmm.
But you've already kind of teased us on the t-shirt boom. And I'm assuming that's the 70s.
Well, it started into the 70s,
Okay,
yeah.
so tell us about that. What was the what was all that and why did it come about?
Interestingly enough, where my shop was located in San Francisco originally, uh, CBS Recording Studios was right across the street with five recording studios.
Okay.
Studio Instrument Rentals was also in part of our building. Their biggest stage was in there.
Okay.
Uh, so every group that came into town either to record or to rehearse before an engagement, they'd be in the neighborhood. So there was always this interest in what I was building so that they could tell their producers of sportswear what was going on. And it
Yeah.
just, symbiotic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But Bill Graham was there, and of course he uh, produced an incredible number of garments, and many of which were done on manual presses. So the whole business was primarily focused on manual equipment with the
Mm-hmm.
techniques and results you could get from that.
Mm-hmm.
It was a limited scale, but it was a very rewarding one financially.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it worked really, really well.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, million color automatics in an
Mm-hmm.
offshore island.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It wasn't that at all. It was mom and pops and stuff that was going on at home.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which I still think is a strong suit.
Yes.
It really
Yes.
is.
Do you think that the plastisol uh, boom in the 70s had a lot to do with the rise of those products at all?
Well, yeah. I mean, just the fact that you could do what you could do with plastisol without drawbacks of drying in the screen or any
Mhm.
of that sort of thing, it just made it a lot simpler to be in business.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. Boom. I met the guy that invented all that stuff, a guy named Don Petrie. Was with Will Flex. He was, they were doing those little highway buttons, in the lanes sort
Yeah.
of thing. That was plastisol.
Okay.
And I mean, they were doing tankers of that stuff daily. Well, at any rate, he decided that he was going to try some of this stuff and see if he could add a little color in it and then make some sort of little garment for his granddaughters. Will Flex Plastisol.
Wow.
He was the guy.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I can only imagine what that did. Um, doesn't dry out in the screen, can
Yeah.
flash quickly.
Yeah.
And that's when t-shirts just went for it.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, gosh, we tried some Italian water-based ink at a trade show, stopping in between
Yeah.
colors to talk about, and then
Oh, yeah, yeah, especially at those
yeah,
yeah, at
the
the trade
squeege's
shows.
stuck to the screen. It
Wow.
was ridiculous.
But to your point, I mean, a lot of those users, the mom and pops, and I mean, they're running the entire business.
Sure,
It's not rare to have to stop printing and go get the
exactly.
phone,
Yeah,
right? So that had to have helped them as well.
yeah. One of the things that I really enjoyed, I was over in Australia. We'd been racing down at in New Zealand and came up to Brisbane and then going to Hong Kong and up to Japan. And I went to this shop, and here's this lady printing,
Yeah.
and her foot's giving it this deal
Uh huh.
on the rocker for her baby cradle.
Wow,
She's printing away and
that's pretty
still
cool.
rocking the kid. And it was just such an incredible multi-purpose, multitasking
I was gonna
deal.
say that's pretty good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. She was kind of humming along, and the kid was just having a great time. So
All
it was
right.
nice way to see some machinery being used.
So when I got to Ryonet and I first met you, you were producing presses up in Gig Harbor. And I don't want to
Mm,
fast forward too much, but
mm.
was there a lot that, was there anything, first off, is there anything in between those two time periods that you want to cover? And the question is, what got you to relocate?
Uh, well, it's a sort of a difficult story in
Okay.
the sense that uh, I trusted the wrong people,
Okay. Yeah.
and basically, I lost about $4.5 million in about 15 minutes, and was still saddled with about $1 million in private guarantees, which took me almost 8 years to pay off. But the second we hit zero, we came out the other side like a rocket ship.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
that was very difficult times,
Okay.
and it was really interesting to see all of our really good fair weather friends just leaving vapor trails over the horizon, trying to get the hell away from us, afraid that they were going to be infected with the same thing that had just splattered us. And the
Hmm.
odd part about it was, I during the whole time, while it was really difficult and took a lot of hours to keep up with the flow that we had,
Mm-hmm.
um, nonetheless, it whenever I needed something
Mm-hmm.
really, really badly, the oddest thing in the world, somebody out of left field that I didn't know would show up and go, "How can we help you out?" And I mean, go figure. That
Yeah.
doesn't happen. And I'm not a big religious person
Mm-hmm.
necessarily, but I've always believed that you got to do your best and you know fess up at the end. And
Yeah.
as a result, boy, having this unexpected help was just a godsend.
Mm-hmm.
So when you ran into us, we had just come out of the dismal times.
Okay. This is when Ryan. So, what was that like? Where did you meet Ryan, or did
Well,
you know him most like before that?
no, I didn't.
Okay.
Nope. A fellow that was in a chemical business had been up and talked to Ryan and said, "Well, you ought to talk to Riley." So 2 hours later, he showed up, and the rest was pretty well history.
Was this chemical guy Tad?
Probably,
We know Tad. He's now long and retired, but
yeah,
good guy.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So what'd you think when you first met Ryan and Ryonet and what he was doing?
Well, I liked it because, in the first place, he was operating out of his bedroom, which is a great way to start. I mean, you don't need a building to be in business. And the other part was that he was just getting started in the internet business. And all of my dealers hadn't raised a finger to help me out when I was in the soup. So I thought, why should I reward them for lack of any good behavior on their parts.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought, okay, internet, no geographical boundaries. Let's let her rip.
Cool.
And man, we killed it.
Was it an instant success, or did it take some?
It didn't take very long.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and one of the coolest things was, I don't know, it was probably 3 years into it. He had his first $1 million month. I mean, God, that was just killer. I mean, if there was ever something to put a smile on your face, that was sure it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, all the team you guys had, everybody was into it, working hard, making stuff happen. It was just an extraordinary period of time.
All right. Cool. Okay, and that was about what time?
Well, that was just when Ryan was starting to get ready to buy us.
Okay. 2011?
Might have been somewhere in there.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. And
I tend not to look in my rearview mirror very much.
No, it doesn't
so
sound
you
like
have to excuse me on dates.
Except for racing, maybe you do. I don't know.
Well, no, that's
you
just
don't.
to see where you need to block.
Okay. So selling a business like that you've been in for 40 years, that
Right.
seems like a big deal. That seems like so what was going through your mind there? What was happening in your life that made you even consider it?
Well, we needed to do something different. Val had been spending a great deal of time helping me out through all of my machinations and putting up with being a road warrior for, decades. So it was time for her to have some time for herself. So I wanted to afford that opportunity.
Yeah.
So anyway, it.
Whose idea was this?
Well, I'd been trying to get Ryan to think about it for quite some time because I'd isolated him as being the guy I wanted to work with and who I wanted to pass the equipment on to.
Mm-hmm.
And we always have had a very good chemistry and always came up with ideas together.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just always sort of a good symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, always. I mean, just earlier this morning, I saw you and Ryan upstairs filming a print on the new swivel platen.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. So I mean,
that thing is
stopped.
killer.
It hasn't stopped though.
No, I have a history of sending bar napkins to Ryan from all over the place, and we've had several projects that we're still working on. Flying wing ergonomic squeegee is another one, which we're furiously working on down in Arkansas.
All right,
with
cool.
the legendary Chris Miles.
Yes. And speaking of Chris's, I didn't want to keep Chris Drury out of the conversation.
Oh no,
This is somebody who's been the heart and soul and passion and skill set, amongst others, in our manufacturing.
Yeah. Gosh, you look at the equipment and how it's been refined and material use, everything else. He's really done an extraordinary job of adapting the machinery to modern machines' capabilities for manufacture.
Mm-hmm.
He's got some stuff that kicks parts out like there's no tomorrow, whereas it would have taken weeks for the same thing on the old school.
Yeah.
So I'm just in awe of his ability and his thought process.
Yeah.
Because he's very, very goal oriented. It's not, what's this design? It's what's the goal of this design.
Exactly.
And there's a little difference between the two.
Was he and a big part of the decision to feel comfortable about not just selling a business and turning away, because you didn't do that. You wanted it to carry on in some format. Now, it may not have always progressed the exact way that you would have wanted it to. Can you name a couple things that Ryonet did with the business and with the line, maybe on the press specifically, that you agreed with, or maybe you didn't like some changes that occurred?
Yeah, well, Drury called me up and said, "Hey, we got a new deal going on. I want to show it to you, and we're gonna, have this thing kick off at 2 o'clock or something." So
Okay, this
I drove down from Gig Harbor, and for the longest time, I've been an advocate of wide-based registration. Grab the thing as wide as you can, as close to the screen
this
as
is
you
when the
can.
print head comes down
Yeah.
and
It goes into the registration gate. You locate it the farthest out you can get in the widest possible amount. And I've always been absolutely dead set against blade registration, because typically that's maybe 1/8 of an inch wide, and you got 2 roller bearings, and
Mhm.
you can move the press all over the print head all over it.
Mhm.
So I've been dead set against those. Like, I'm steaming into the parking lot, raced in,
I think I
here
know
the
where this is going.
cameras are going and everything else, and he's going, "Well, what do you think of this brand new press?" And bam, there is a registration block.
What did you think when you first saw it?
Well, I looked at it uh, carefully to begin with,
No, I mean the
because,
initial impression.
well, my first thought was, "What the hell have you just set me up for?" I was supposed to faint or what? And but what I was looking at was Chris's solution to the problems with those registration blades
Mhm.
being too thin.
Mhm.
Here, this thing was inch wide, hardened steel, no
Mhm.
messing around, not gonna move. So he solved the problem,
Cool.
and I
Cool.
was okay with it.
Wow. Yeah.
But it was a start.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I was not ready for that.
When you decided, obviously, you said that it was an idea that you'd been kicking around with Ryan and trying to get him
Right.
motivated to like. So, what was his initial response to Ryonet acquiring Riley Hopkins?
He was
We were. I'm sorry. We were the number. I mean, we were definitely the number one in volume selling it as
right.
well.
Right.
Like you said, and so it wasn't necessarily the business model was tested.
Yes.
We could sell presses, but what did he initially think about it? And
He was usually fairly cagey about it.
KG,
Yeah. Go, "Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's have a beer." Kind of thing.
so thought you were kind of just throwing it around, and
Yeah.
okay, all
You
right,
know,
all right.
I didn't think that he was seriously considering it as
Mhm.
much as I would have liked him to be.
Ah,
And it turned out that he was serious all the time.
okay, just really making sure it was something you really wanted.
Well, not only that he could actually do it on his end. You
Committed
know,
to it.
yeah, because he'd
Mhm.
moved in about 3 different locations
Yeah,
in the same number of years.
that's right.
Well, one of the difficult parts on any acquisition is sucking it up and getting the money.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
that's a challenge.
definitely, definitely.
And there are some rather reptilian people out there that were happy to lend you money at Guido rates,
Mhm.
which is not good. So he had to make sure that the funding was correct too, and it wasn't going to be an impediment to business.
Mhm. Mhm.
It worked out quite well, and I continue to kick little design things in here and there to stay active, because I love the industry and I love the people in it, and I love you guys, and um, have a continued stake in design. So
Yeah.
since I turned 80 last year, it seems like for some reason I've gotten one more gear. Yeah,
Yeah.
a bunch of new stuff coming up that I hadn't planned on, but pretty exciting stuff. Um, I built a car from scratch, handmade, for a good industry friend of ours, and then started doing some work with a vocational school in Salinas, California, and on the screen printing side, and then have a new car designed that I would like them to build for us,
Wow.
and then donate it to them so they can auction it off and retain all the proceeds to build a new automotive restoration shop
Nice.
at their facility in
Okay.
Salinas.
Okay.
So, that's all been just in the last 6 months.
That's okay. So I can only imagine that many people in screen printing in the industry were first captured by its, whatever part of the industry they got attracted to. They were most likely exposed somewhere in high school,
Hmm.
middle school, high school, college, wherever it was. We hear this story all the time. And whether people took it then and created a job out of it or a career or a business or whatever, or maybe just did something else and always were fond of that, which we hear people getting into it later in life, like, right? Later
Oh,
on, they're
sure.
like, okay, well, I'll get a screen printing then. So what I'm saying is that education and high schools and kids learning this early on is a huge part of the industry.
Yep.
And there's a lot
Well,
of,
and it should be.
and it should be.
For whatever reason, it seems as though the emphasis has been put on academic work versus working with your hands, having a trade, knowing what you're doing, working on a car, whatever, building a house. Those things have not been held at the level of esteem that I think they should. And as a result, I've always been an advocate for learning so that people can get employed,
Yeah.
and raise a family, take care of all of those things that we're all supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so the vocational schools give an opportunity for that. Uh, I haven't seen it to the level that I'd like to see it in screen printing,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
There's some really good opportunities for some new stuff to happen, which I'm really excited about because it's something that really needs to take place.
Yeah.
And if we can train a couple of thousand screen printers a year to where they can either have a side hustle or actually work in a shop for somebody else. Gosh, at Long Beach, time after time, I talk to people that were just saying, God, we're at our wits' end. We can't get workers.
Okay.
No, we just can't get qualified help.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, that's a pretty good reason for kicking that thing into gear.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, anyway, the vocational side of that, I think, has a direct bearing in the health of the industry.
Well, and for everyone who doesn't know, because again, we've talked about it over the years, but Ryan first saw a Riley Hopkins press in his high school
Yeah.
in the arts and whatever department that was.
The other part that's a side thing that I actually haven't even told him yet, the color of that press
Yeah.
was yellow.
It was.
Yeah, my first race car was a 4-cylinder Austin Healey that I also painted chicken racing yellow. Exact color.
Is that why that press is that color?
Yeah.
We have it upstairs right
Yeah,
now.
I know.
Yeah. Was that cool to see?
Yeah, absolutely. Every time I look at that thing,
Was that one of a kind?
no,
No.
that was an entry-level press, and it was
Okay.
supposed to have been mainly for schools,
Okay.
but it was still very well made, and people bought them because they were extra cheap, and then used them like a regular pro press, and just got the shake and bakes going on pretty good with them.
Throughout the last almost 50 years, and that's got to be a celebration, by the way. That 50 years got to be a celebration.
Well, at least so far it hasn't been a wake.
But 50 years, so if you can even take, I mean, I've never looked at 50 years, obviously, but like if you could look at the whole 50 years, what was a milestone of just pride? Was there a certain part of that you're, man, a little more tasty than the rest?
Man, I mean, the whole time has been, even though it's been difficult at times, to me, it's been like eating dessert for 50 years. I mean, you don't get tired of it. It's just, this industry is so vibrant in its own right. How can you ever get bored? I mean, there's always something new. And what's really fun, you look at a lot of the new technology and things that everybody needs to talk about, and usually old people will always say the same sort of thing. But reality is, the way things change,
Mhm.
they stay the same. And, you know, tried and true works really well.
Yeah,
Nothing wrong with it, and you can make a very good living with it. And
absolutely.
if you want to try doing new stuff as part of your own learning to come up with new examples of work, then you need to really experiment all the time.
Mhm.
And while I never encourage mistakes, I don't discourage them either because you always learn something from them.
Well, and I have to ask, so something that we're currently working through the last 3 or 4 years is this not new because it always direct to garment had been around,
Mm,
early 2000 so there's already and transfers and some other things, but
sure.
if it's okay, I wanted to ask like what is your perspective on that right now? The direct to film transfers? Do
Mm.
you think about it at all? Is it a what advice would you have for somebody who is looking at garment decoration and their option is to print a film and heat press it onto a shirt versus this amazing world of screen printing? Like, what would be your 50-year advice?
Well, turn back.
I know. I know. No.
No, actually, the reality is, I mean, I think everything in our industry has a place, and I think there's plenty of room for transfers and heat transfer presses for different applications for different garments, different materials, so on and so forth, as well as screen printing. So I think a healthy mix of all of those things is normal. And one over the other, at the end of the day, it's going to be ruled by how much money you can make or how much money you're losing by using something that's too expensive.
Right. So if
So,
the result comes out in a similar quality,
yeah.
then it really comes down to what factors? You said cost?
Well, at the end of the day, that's
Cost.
the ruling.
Yeah, with time, material, time.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right.
A good friend of mine, Ted Stahl, is just an absolute maven when it comes to heat transfers and developing all their technologies and equipment and everything else. I mean, he's an amazing guy. And uh, he has always been an innovator and leading in new directions for the industry. And so, quite often, you can get a pretty good handle on where things might be going just by paying attention to what he's doing,
All right.
because he's an out of the box guy. Always
Cool.
been just 10 light years ahead.
All right. Well, following his direction, any advice, any hints?
Well, actually, he invented a jet lag solution, which I tried it once and it actually worked, but I would never want to do it again. Which basically starts out where you take an international flight, the red eye flight. You start drinking heavily in a bar before
Mhm.
you get on the plane.
Uh-huh.
Then you're in first class, so you have free drinks, and everybody's gone to sleep anyway. So you chat the stews up and stay consuming vast quantities of alcohol throughout the whole flight. Land in Germany, in Frankfurt. Uh, Clear Customs have one of those big death dogs that they've got, along with a huge stein of beer. And you drive out to your destination about 2 hours away, staying awake. You
Uh-huh.
work through the whole day, have dinner that night with a number of drinks, go to sleep, and the next day you're perfect.
Wow. Have you done this before?
Once
Okay.
with Ted.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I needed a survivor's shirt after that was over.
I didn't,
Let me tell
I
you.
didn't quite expect that.
Lord, love a duck.
What?
But,
Sorry. Go
well, I
ahead.
was just going to say that whole trip wound up with more bar-napkin
Uh-huh. Yep.
designs
Yeah.
and whiz-bangs than you can imagine. It was really a lot of fun.
Have you always been that way? Like as a kid in school, writing out ideas and different things?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, art was always a way for me to either get to the next race or buy clothes or whatever.
Cool.
It's just means to an end.
All right. All right. Well, coming from, a 50-year career, if you want to call it that, and everything you have ahead of yourself. Um, First off, it's been great chatting with you. I
Yeah, no
appreciate it.
kidding.
Yeah, I've learned a lot. You are an interesting person, and you have a lot of relationships in the
Well,
industry.
and also,
Hmm.
lest I forget, please say hello to your dad for me
I will.
because he was an amazing guitarist. And
He would appreciate that.
oh
Thank you.
man, well, I mean, you don't fall too far from the tree yourself.
I'm nowhere near the guitarist my dad is, but
Oh
I
man,
appreciate it.
amazing guy.
Riley, I got one more question. So, for the listeners mostly, what advice, and this could be pretty broad, but what advice do you have for someone who is brand new to all of it and just has that napkin, something drawn on it, and wants to get started? What advice do you have for them to to be successful or prepare them for this is? Starting a business, running a business, all of it.
One of the things that I've run across is the energy of a project, and that's very important to have. Um, and every time you talk about it, the project to somebody else to explain it, to try and convince them that you're on the right track, you waste energy. And 9 times out of 10, the person you're talking to will try and talk you out of it
Mhm.
because they're not doing it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I think it's really important to stick to your guns. Uh, don't waste time trying to convince somebody else how brilliant you are. At the
Show
end of
them.
the day, you just need to start making stuff where people can give you money.
I like that a lot. I mean, that reminds me of something I've seen recently, which was, yeah, don't spend the time telling them, show them,
Yeah,
just do it.
that's it.
Cool.
Yeah, our it's funny. One of our mottos is "Talk's cheap,
Oh, yeah.
let's race."
Yeah. I like that. I do.
Because at the end of the day, that's what you're down to.
All right.
Because business is competitive.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's a contact sport.
It is. It really is, but it's also very rewarding.
Mm.
You get to do a lot of stuff, and you get to affect, hopefully in most positive ways, a lot of people as well.
I can tell that when you were today when we were talking and you're thinking about certain questions that I've asked you and you're reminiscing. You often chuckle before you start talking. It's almost like you have a lot of really positive memories that you're recalling,
Oh yeah.
even more than you're saying, right?
Oh yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Some of them would definitely be X-rated, but
Oh, jeez. But I really did appreciate talking with you, and truly, you are a huge influencer and early on influencer of the industry, and things that you were a part of, either directly or indirectly, have shaped the way that presses look. But more than that, what you do on them, and what all the amazing behind us is all of different customers that have sent in all the
yep.
different garments.
Yeah.
And when you said this is a vibrant industry, you weren't joking.
No,
This is a
no. No. Well, and to sum it all up, I think I've been extraordinarily lucky to be able to be a member of this industry. It's been an incredibly rewarding situation, and I'm looking forward to spending a lot more time in it.
all right. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for visiting. Definitely don't hesitate to come back whenever you'd like.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
let's try one at 90.
Okay.
That's a good start.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.